This is a screencast on my personal example of a process essay, which we're going to look at in just a second. Hopefully, by now, at this point, you've read through a couple other examples by actual writers, Showering with Your Dog and Fighting Words, which were both kind of humorous or kind of not meant to be taken seriously process essays that are one of your options for writing your own personal essay. And then the second one was How to Write with Style by Kurt Vonnegut, which is a more serious process essay. Kurt Vonnegut obviously is a very popular author, or was, and he wrote about how to write with style and the tips and tricks that kind of go along with that. So you have those two options with your prompt if you want to write a process essay that is more humorous or not meant to be taken seriously. And I gave you a couple of options, I think, in your prompt just to kind of get your brain jogged there for some ideas. Or you can take something that you know something about and feel confident in experiencing or sharing that with others. So I wanted to take a look then at my personal one with you really quick, just to remind you of a couple of things before while this is pulling up, before we kind of talk about that, you will notice that all three of the essays that you've read so far for this particular unit have looked very different, whereas like you some had very clear delineated steps with section headers. Others, like Fighting Words, had, you couldn't tell that it wasn't a normal essay until you actually got in and read. What's going to be really important for this essay is to, in your introduction, introduce why you're, like the process that you're going to explain, why you have the authority to do so, and set that up for your reader. And then decide for yourself how you want to lay those steps out. Do you want to clearly delineate them with section headers like we did in our review essay? Or would you like to keep it as an essay and using transition words like first, second, those kinds of things? Those two options work very well for this purpose. So you just kind of have to decide which one works best for you. So remember that we are writing everything from here on out in APA format. Remember that you will have your cover page with your number at the top, your page number. Remember to insert that page number so that it paginates for you on the way all the way throughout your essay. That title needs to be 4 spaces down, 4 or so. It needs to be in the upper quadrant of the paper, but it needs to be about 4 spaces down from the top, and then after that 4 spaces or so down for and no one's getting a ruler out and checking to make sure that there's this many spaces. It just needs to appear to be to follow in that upper quadrant of your paper. It looks off that way, I understand, but it's one of those weird quirky things about APA. Remember that your title is bolded, and anytime, I don't know if some of you may have written a paper before and I told you to italicize. There are lots of things that we italicize in writing titles of books, magazines, movies, TV shows. Those kinds of things get italicized, but we also italicize words that are unfamiliar to the English language. So even words like tortilla, for example, is an example of that. Technically, we use tortilla so commonplace now that we don't think about it, but tortilla is not original to our language. It's not original to English. So foreign words, any words that come from different languages, you're going to also italicize those, okay? All right, so my paper is on how to travel across internationally, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my process and then explain those steps to traveling successfully across the across international for international travel. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write my introduction. Remember, with APA, you still have your running header up in the top right-hand corner, and then your paragraph, your introductory paragraph, starts literally on that first line after your header. Okay, so I said, for as long as I can remember, I've suffered from fernweh, or the consuming, compelling urge to travel to new places and have new experiences. To me, there is nothing that is as good for the soul or the mind than submerging yourself in an adventure to someplace new. While the United States and tiny nearby island countries have a lot to offer, anyone who really wants to broaden his or her surroundings should consider international travel as an outlet. There's a great big world outside of the fishbowl. Oh, I found an error. Miss Lloyd made an error. Out of the fishbowl that we live in here in America, full of vibrant culture, rich history, and unique people. Traveling across the pond can be daunting. However, here are a couple of steps to follow to get the most out of your international journey. Two things that you're going to notice, I've preached about using the word you. It's actually acceptable in this essay because what you're doing is you're setting up a process for someone to follow. Now, whether or not they actually go out and follow it is another thing, but it's kind of hard to write a process essay without the word you. Still keep in mind that you want to be aware of your use of you. Try not to use it too redundantly in the same sentence or in multiple sentences in the same paragraph. You want to think about that. The second thing that you're going to notice is in my introduction is that I actually set it up kind of as a thesis statement that kind of introduces the fact that what's going to come next is going to be steps. It's going to be process oriented. And so that my reader knows exactly what they're getting into. That's the way a thesis statement works. And we've been doing that in our past essays. And sometimes we do that without even really explicitly stating it as a thesis, like we did in our narrative and in our descriptive essay. So the thesis is very clear. The reader knows exactly what they're fixing to get into, and I save that kind of for last here in my to kind of segue into my essay or my steps, my individual steps. So I did choose to use headers just because I feel like for myself personally that the headers help keep me on track. They help me when I'm going back and reviewing, making sure I see that header there. All I want in this paragraph or paragraphs below with that section is to make sure that that content is connected to that header. It kind of helps me do a little bit better job of revising. If I'm reading through and I'm looking for sentences that don't necessarily fit, I can take them out or I can move them to another section because I know that this paragraph is supposed to contain what's in those steps. And so yours don't have to be clearly defined like that. That's a personal choice as a writer's move that you can make. However, I've always just found it a little bit easier for things like the review, things like the process, to kind of break it down and establish a real clear header that keeps my reader on track, and it also keeps me on track as well. Okay, so my first step one, do your research and buy the book or books here. Preparation is the most critical step of preparing for international travel. My topic sentence immediately connects that section header to the purpose of the paragraph. So I've kind of doubly did that. I've given them the step and very clearly aligned what's going to be in the paragraph, and then I segue into that paragraph with a topic sentence that brings my reader into the paragraph. When traveling to a foreign country, being unprepared is a grave misstep, one that can lead to serious problems. In America, our cultures, languages, values, monetary system, and etiquette are all pretty closely aligned across the states, with very few significant differences. This is not the case abroad. All these criteria vary from country to country and even from city to city within the same country. It is important to do thorough research about the cities that you will be visiting. Google is great for quick answers, review, and general knowledge, but to me, One of the best ways to get an up close and personal look at where you will be heading is to purchase a travel guide and a pocket language phrase book and dictionary. Phone app translators are handy, but those require connectivity to work, and you might not always have access to free Wi Fi. My favorite travel guide books are pocket editions of Rick Steve guides, but Lonely Planet and Fromers make great travel companions as well. Inside a travel guide, you will find information and reviews on hotels, restaurants, and tourist attractions. But to me, the invaluable parts are the smaller sections of the books. Tips for public transportation and safety, commonly used words and phrases geared towards travel, and a map of the city. So I'm very thorough in explaining my step, how to do the research, telling them to buy the book, telling my reader to buy the book, and I even give my own recommendation of what I like to use, so that if you were using my guide to prepare for travel, that you could, I'm sorry, I get the hiccups sometimes when I'm talking. But you could find those books the same. And I included 2 little pictures here. And notice that I used small pictures. I didn't want it to take up, I'm already, 1,500 words is 6 pages, or roughly around about that much. So you want to, if you're using pictures of your steps or whatever your process is that you decide to do, you want to make sure that your pictures are useful to your purpose. They're not just random pictures like, hey, I love to travel, so let me show you all my travel pictures. They're going to be useful to my purpose, which for this is to kind of show you the types of books that I like to use, especially those pocket guides, those pocket translators that you have. And then that way my reader can see what I recommend. And so that might be something you want to keep in mind. Okay, my next step 2, is pack light. Although it is highly tempting to carry multiple bags with ample room for all your perfect Instagram-worthy photo opportunity outfits, smart international travelers believe that less is more. Traveling light allows you to be more mobile with easier transitions on public transportation and taxis, all while maintaining your security. Multiple bags usually involve a struggle, and nothing screams tourist to savvy thieves more than struggle. I travel with a 42-liter travel backpack and a crossbody purse that I wear across the front of my body. This way, I can hop on and off trains, subways, and cab rides with little hassle. You should always keep your passport and money out of sight and close to your body. I recommend a bag with straps that are slash-proof as well, which are common features of bags specifically designed for travel. Get yourself a light, all-purpose rain jacket and a good pair of walking shoes. I've explained my steps very thorough, and now I'm going into my recommendations again. I recommend Cotopaxi's 42-liter Alpa travel pack. It is the only bag we travel with everywhere we go, even stateside, which can be purchased from their website. For anti-theft travel bags and crossbody purses, I have used Travelon's bags for years with no issues. My go-to travel jacket is the North Face's Venture jacket. It's light, great for pop-up showers, not bulky over layers, and can tie easily around the waist or loop over my bag with ease when I remove it. If you're traveling to colder destinations, puffy jackets that compress easily are the way to go. I have one that compresses completely flat in its little travel pouch, so it does not take up much space in my pack. Again, I used pictures that were strategic for the purpose of that step. I have the picture here of the Alpa backpack that we travel with when we go on our trips, and then my go-to travel outfit is usually leggings, layers. I'll have on multiple shirts, tank top, a t-shirt or whatever with a longer sleeve shirt on it, and then I also have a longer sleeve shirt over it, and I also have on my jacket that I wear. And then tennis shoes is a must for traveling internationally. Don't think cute, think comfy, comfortable, purposeful. Okay. Step 4, continuing on, I'm doing the exact same thing. You notice that I didn't use pictures with every section, and that's okay, because I may not have felt like there was something in there that could have been improved with the use of a picture. Okay. The step 4 and same thing. I talk a little bit about doing what the locals do. I give some recommendations. I talk about some tips, all very critical to that point that I've made. And then I have my conclusion. And you'll notice that I didn't go into a lot of extra, lengthy detail in my conclusion, because because I have the way that I've set my paper up, a lot of conclusion is not necessary. Usually in a process, the conclusion is your last step. However, you don't want to end on the last step. You do need a small paragraph of reflection or a small paragraph of conclusion. And I just kept it really simple. There's nothing like travel to broaden your horizons. I'm bringing back around my introduction back into my conclusion to kind of bring my story full circle. If you follow the steps I've outlined above, you will have a great experience and make unforgettable memories on your trip. There's a great big world out there just waiting for you to explore. Happy travels. Okay, I reiterated that I have steps. I've pulled it all together, and that is a very succinct and clear process essay.